What do you feel is missing from how lifters approach their lifting in today's strength world?
I kind of know the answer. So how do I want to hit the answer? I've been in this powerlifting thing in one form or another for this spring will be 40 fucking years. I've been around. I started training my first meet 40 years ago. That's fucking old. So I've seen things come, go, come back again, go, come back again, so many times. Probably some things that are kind of big things, I'm now seeing like the third iteration of the same trend all over again. And, the first couple times you don't know any better because you haven't really seen it. You don't pay that much attention to it. And now you see it all over. And it doesn't even faze me. It was like, whatever, here we go again, just round and around. Anyhow, the biggest thing, because if I want to look way back, to today, and a lot of things have changed, and most things have changed for the better. There's no doubt in my mind they've changed for the better. There's more information, which I don't think is a bad thing. You just have to learn how to decipher the information. I don't think that's even that hard. I really don't. It's like, if you can't tell something's complete utter bullshit, then I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. If you're in the field and you're treating it professionally, like you want to learn from it, you're going to be able to determine what's kind of bullshit and what's not bullshit from that standpoint. I would rather have a whole lot of stuff to determine what's bullshit and what's not bullshit, and then have to wait every month for a new magazine to come out, and then to walk to the bookstore to get the magazine, and and textbooks and all the other stuff. Now it's so much stuff that you see a lot of different viewpoints where, coming up through for me during the younger times, I didn't see, maybe I did see a lot of different viewpoints, but it wasn't at the same time. Say high intensity training was in vogue, so that was the popular thing, or high volume training, and that was the popular thing, or you stumble across something, then you do a deep dive on that. And so I guess in one aspect, it was probably easier for me to do deep dives on stuff because I wasn't exposed to so many different things at one time, where now people are exposed to so many different things that I don't think they do a deep dive really on anything unless they decide, I want to try this. And then they start to do a little bit of deep dive until it gets a little technical, then they don't want to do it anymore. But at least they do some. But I think most people just get stuck on the surface level of everything. And that kind of touches upon what I think is the biggest difference, and that is personal accountability. And this, I think, began to become more of an issue in the last half decade, since maybe 2010, 2015, half decade, kind of in that range. And where we're at just looking at a powerlifting perspective, because that's where I have the greatest history in. Strength and conditioning is maybe 10 years less than what that is. But from the powerlifting perspective, the personal accountability was huge, really up until about 10 years ago. And if somebody wanted to become better as a lifter, they had to learn how to become a better lifter, or find somebody to train with that was a better lifter. And they had to figure out how it was going to work for them to make them better. Now they just hire a coach. And, there's benefits to that and there's negatives to that. But, the overreaching issue that begins to expose itself is you see a bigger attrition than ever before, because people are coming into the sport and this may be true in strongman, and it's probably true in bodybuilding. I can pretty safely say that. Strongman, I don't know. But, they come in and they don't think they can compete unless they have a coach, which means they're never going to compete in their life unless they have a coach, ever. And So all that accountability that they were going to take now gets shifted to the coach. Now, granted, yes, they still have to show up. They still have to do the work. They still have to do all those things. But somebody's telling them, that's what you do. This is what you need to do. And if adjustments need to be made, they're going to make the adjustments. So they're never going to learn how to make the adjustments and all these different things. And that's a huge part of the process. Maybe it's my bias. Maybe it's, my age and the experience and how I came up shining through there. I'm not ignorant enough to not know that could be a big part of this. But I do think that there's a problem where people won't compete or think they won't compete unless they have a coach. And if we move that forward several years, which I think that we've seen in powerlifting over the past 5, which is what I'm talking about. Now those people who are in the industry that used to be those people that would, help other people in the gym, show them how to powerlift, say, here, go read this, program or do this program and, basically guide them, on how to do their meet are now people that have never had anybody do that for them. They always had to pay. So now that they've been doing it for 5 years, there's no fucking way they're going to help somebody else because they had to pay for everything that they know. So that's where we're at now is if somebody's coming into the sport, it's very hard for them to find somebody that's going to help them without some type of monetary compensation. Even if it's they join a gym and whatever the gym fee is going to be, more than likely, if they want to be part of the powerlifting club, they're going to have to pay more. Or if they want to have the powerlifting training, they're going to have to pay more for that. It's not everywhere, but most places that's the case. So if we, keep moving 5 years from now, that's no longer going to exist. If you join a gym, you're going to be able to pay X amount per month, and that's just to be able to use the place. But if you want to actually compete in powerlifting, you have to come during, these times and pay this much more, for that service, and that's what it's going to be. And which, fine. I mean, if that's the direction that the sport is going to go, and that's the direction that's going to make it grow and so forth, that's fine. It's cool. But what are you going to do about the people that can't afford it? Because I couldn't, for 15 fucking years, of my career, I couldn't. There's no way I could afford it. Fuck, I couldn't even afford. It was hard for me to afford paying Louis $40 a month or whatever the gym dues were to keep the heat on, while I was there, let alone have to pay him, to be able to be in there. I couldn't fucking do that. So what happens to all those people? They no longer compete anymore. So that's the biggest thing. So I don't blame it on the coaches, because there's got to be a market. All right. And if there's a market of people that are willing to pay and they're going to pay, then somebody's going to charge. That's just the way the whole thing works. I blame it on the people who are paying. If the people that are paying need to take more personal accountability and responsibility, go ahead and pay the coach, but ask questions. Figure out why they're having you do the things that you're doing specific to you. Figure out how you're going to be able to do this if you love the sport and you love the training. How are you going to do it if the coach isn't there for a year? Or is the coach helping you to become independent so you can do it on your own, so you can learn? Because, big light bulb moment, for you personally, and this is my bias, but it's really fucking strong on this one. I'll admit it on all the other ones, but it's really strong on this one. People are going to have a really hard time convincing me otherwise. For the vast majority of people to get to the level that they're really being the best they can be, they're going to have to auto-regulate their own training. They're going to need to know what the fuck they're doing and why they're doing it, and then be able to make those changes. And for most people, that's not going to happen right away. It's going to take a lot of time. It very possibly is going to take a coach to be able to show them how to do that and how to get to that level. But somebody has to, because if you don't eventually get to that level, you're never going to be the best that you can possibly be. So I put the blame actually on the lifter. the consumer, for they need to take more accountability and responsibility for their own program. This crap of, I just don't want to worry about it, I got other shit to do. That's cool if that's a hobby and you just want something to do for exercise. I get that. I get real busy too. It's like, fuck it, I just want to train, somebody else just tell me what the fuck to do. I get that, but I realize it's very non-optimal. But it's better than zero, but if you're trying to, I'm just going to talk in circles, so I'm going to stop there.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the Lord.